Today, we have gathered to remember and celebrate the life of Jerry Knasel. My name is Reverend Anthony Makar, and I welcome you to this home for the human spirit, West Shore Unitarian Universalist Church. We are remembering Jerry today, and we are grieving his dying. As we share our thoughts and stories about him, we may occasionally feel like crying, and that is fine. We know the pain that comes with tenderness. There is great grief in losing someone whose life we hold so dearly, but there may also be laughter at a funny story or two, and that is fine. It is fine in this space for all of our emotions which may come up, whatever may come up for us. In a time like this, joy and woe are woven finely indeed. But love, it's large enough for it all. Love lifts up all things. It hopes for all things. It endures all things. Love never ends. Said Unitarian minister A. Powell Davies, "When sorrow comes, let us accept it simply as a part of life. Let the heart be open to pain. All the evidence we have says that it is the better way." And so it is. Our tears will help us to begin to learn to live with Jerry's death. And we do this not as a matter of ending our relationship with him, but as a matter of beginning a new way of appreciating his life and all it has meant and all it will continue to mean to us. To honor the life and the living of Jerry Knasel, our chalice today will be lit by his beloved, Dave Prock. Right here.
Hello, everyone. I'm Syl Knudsen, and there are many in this congregation seated here that I know, and I want you to know that I love you. And for those of you I haven't met, I know I have to love you too because you loved Jerry. So thank you for being here. There are two words that I wanted to start to speak about with respect to Jerry Knasel. One is willingness, and one is connection. Now, I asked the walls of this church what they heard the most often over the course of the last, 25 years. So the top three contenders were the inherent worth and dignity of all human beings, who will run the pledge drive, when is the coffee ready, But the number one thing the walls heard was, "Oh, Jerry will do it." Because Jerry did it, everything, in this congregation and beyond. And I'm sure that there will be others who are going to detail his deep connection to the congregation and deep connection with Gala and Pride and the center and our church community, whether he was elected, whether he was appointed, whether he was volunteered, or whether he was voluntold. He was in this congregation and of it, and his institutional memory was consummate. His lived experience was our institutional memory. Now, I'd like to turn to connection and a bit more personal aspects of my connection with Jerry. It began in 2000 when my husband, Gary, daughter, Dorothy, and I moved back to Cleveland after being gone for a few years. Turns out daughter Dorothy was in 8th grade, and Mr. Knasel was her coming-of-age teacher. And she said, she couldn't be here with us today. She's in New York City, but she's watching. Hi, Dorothy. And she said, "You know, Jerry taught me everything I know about sex." and then she said, "No, not really." But he quickly, our relationship enlarged and became deeper and stronger because of his life mate, Mark. Holloway and I were always in cahoots and conniving about something. And Jerry was willing to go along with whatever we did. And I would like to talk about the many trips we took to Transylvania and our partner church in the Baijan village. As a result of those trips that started in 2003 for Jerry, certainly for Jerry and Mark knowing about it, was we went to additional places after our partner church village of 1,000 people. We traveled extensively in Romania, in Transylvania, in Budapest, Hungary, in Vienna, Austria, Dubrovnik, Croatia, Paris and Brittany, France, Lake Como, Venice, and Florence. And of course, Kolozsvár or Cluj, which is where I think Jerry could have given a tour of that by the time we left last summer. Now, his ongoing relationship and connection with my daughter, Dorothy, led to some nicknames some of you may have heard about. One was because of his extensive love for rap music. Some don't know this. Dorothy started calling him J-Dog. And that was dog with 2 G's, J-Dog. Such an odd relationship they have. But the other one was, you may have noticed out on the remembrance table, and if you didn't see it or didn't notice it, please look for it. There is a monkey. And Jerry adopted the nickname for himself of Little Monkey. Every birthday card, any card, everything I ever got from him, he'd always sign off Little Monkey. And I want to tell you how he got that name. It again was from Dorothy. We had just been in Budapest. My late husband Gary and our late friend Mark and David went to the fabulous Zechnyi baths that had just been restored. There were 7 outdoor pools of different spa temperatures, indoor pools, every kind of medical treatment you could imagine, as Budapest is known for, with the baths that come up from the ground. And so the 3 of them were, flitting about the bathhouses, so to speak. And Jerry and Dorothy and I went to the zoo right across the street. Well, it turns out everything was quiet. We were looking at things, and we came upon the spider monkeys. And for some reason, the spider monkeys just started yelling and howling their heads off and just going berserk. And Jerry thought this was very funny. And then Dorothy said something in a way, the words that she said were, "I want a little monkey, and I'm going to call it a little monkey." But the way she said it was, excuse me, "I want a little monkey, and I'm I'm going to call it a little monkey. And then Jerry thought that was so funny. He started howling, and the way he laughed sounded just like the monkeys. So then Dorothy and I were laughing. So that is how he became the little monkey, for some of us. But I do want to make sure you know that quirky, funny, oddball sense of humor that he had. And I also want you to know that he made such a deep connection, I'm just pulling him up, such a deep connection with the students of our partner church and the 10 or so times he went to our village, that here are several quotes from the people. And you can cue up that picture, Mike, if you can. So one of the quotes is, "May he rest in peace, and his memory guide us to be better people." It's so sad that a generation that changed our lives for the better is slowly fading away. And then here's the memorial to the saints of West Shore that was placed on the church grounds of our partner church village. On the grounds, not in the cemetery, on the church grounds. And they're called the West Shore Saints. And I'm going to be taking some of Jerry's ashes over this summer, so that he'll be in that tomb of sorts, that landmark with Gary and Mark, and we'll have another plaque made for Jerry. So thank you.
I've said it many times to you, I'll say it once again. I never didn't love you. When first my eyes did you behold, more than half my life ago. My hopes were shattered, my dreams had stopped, I knew not what to do, or even where to go. You came into my life, and me I entered yours. His kindled once again for me what I was longing for. A friend whom I could come to know and share life's journey with, to traverse through the valleys and climb the highest cliffs. We've weathered disappointments, we've lost our dearest friend. Mark left us with each other to sojourn to life's end. And though I loved Mark more than life, I felt the same for you. And so I'll say it once again, I never didn't love you. I love you then, I love you still, and in my heart I just as a note, I penned this ballad and wrote the music after our other beloved life mate, Mark Holloway, died. We kept our home together for 43 years when Mark passed, and now it's 56 years with Jerry and myself till a month ago. I loved both these men dearly. It's here. I loved it both more than my life. And I wanted to celebrate my last life mate, Jerry Knasel. And thank you all for being here to celebrate with me.
It's very. Jerry would tell me that too. Can't hear you. I met Jerry 35 years ago. I was his student. He was a teacher, mentor, and father to me. He meant the world to me. Sorry, it's still new, so. Every year on my birthday, I'll get a birthday card. Every year on Christmas, I'll get a Christmas card. He always remembered the important moments of my life. He counseled me in my worst days. He supported me, my greatest. He was always there when I needed him. And to think that he's not going to be there now, it's difficult. I love them with all my heart. But, we had a privilege when I met Jerry of becoming sort of like a son to him and to Mark and David. And all three of them, in their own way, gave me guidance in their own way. When I needed an opinion about life or anything that bothered me, Mark was the one to go to. He used to say, especially when Jerry was around, "Oh, Blanche, it's not that serious." That's what Mark used to say. Jerry used to say to me, it's like, well, think about it, reflect on it, and see how you would do it a different way. That's his teacher side. David, academically, when I wanted to go back to school, was very, very, taught me where to go to school, what to look for. And I learned a lot from all three. But Jerry was always the one that I went to for everything I needed. He never said no. One of my fondest stories of Jerry, I started college late in life, my 30s. And I got accepted to Capital University. I called Jerry. The first person I called was Jerry. I said, "Jerry, I got into Capital University." Couldn't believe it. Jerry's like, "Oh, I'm proud of you. Good job. Way to go." And I said, "All right, well, now the work is going to begin, so I'm going to have to go look for a laptop and printer and blah, blah, blah. I'm going to run around and I want to find these things." Being a child of not a lot of means and, working a minimum job, at that time computers were expensive, excuse me. It was expensive back in the days. So Jerry goes, "Don't worry, you'll find it and you'll get your great start in school." So I'm like, "Thanks, Jerry." Hung up with him. Very next day he calls me. "Frank, how's it going with the computer? How's it going with school?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm still looking. Are you home, Frank?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm home. I'm outside." I go outside. Surprise, brand new computer and a printer. That was him. In a nutshell, that was him. I was just telling Sylvia, and I was telling Sil, on Friday, every week, I call them to see how they're doing. Want to go to lunch? Want to go to dinner? And in that morning I was free. I said, Jerry, do you want to meet me? Let's go out for breakfast. So I took David and Jerry. We all went out to breakfast. Had a great old time, breakfast. David complained about the size of the food. Made it tough for the waitress. But we all enjoyed the breakfast. And then I stayed at the house for a little bit before I had to go pick up my daughter at CSU. And me and Jerry just sat and talked. And we talked about different things. We always talked about odds and ends, different things. But Jerry was always a great listener. He listened and take your concerns into considerations. He was very thoughtful. On Tuesday, we received a thank you card. I received a thank you card saying, I had a wonderful time at breakfast. Thank you so much for showing us a new restaurant that we can go to. And that Wednesday, I received a call, you passed. He meant the world to me. But I do know in my heart that he left a great legacy. It's funny how things work in life. Because just last night I was together with some friends, and we were just talking. And one of them came up to me. His name is Scott. He's like, Frank, I wanted to talk to you. I'm like, oh, Scott, I haven't talked to you in a while. About what? My condolences about Jerry. I was like, how do you know Jerry? And he goes, I came to this church, and the first person I met was Jerry. In a matter of minutes, he knew Jerry like that. He said Jerry was kind. You had all the information about the church and was willing to help him to make a decision to be a member or not. But he knew Jerry, and it caught me off guard. So, teacher, mentor, and father. That's what Jerry meant to me in a nutshell. And I'm going to miss him every day. And I thank you guys for being here, because it just shows how much he was loved by every one of you. And how much he loved this church, the people, and especially his love for Mark, David, and every close friend he had. I can't say nothing else, but God bless him, and I'm glad he's with Mark now, and with his mother and brother. But I want to thank you guys all. Thank you.
Let's now sing together 1002 in the turquoise hymnal. Comfort me. Please rise.
Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Sing with me, sing with me, sing with me, oh my soul. Sing with me, sing with me, sing with me,
Hello. For those of you don't know me, my name's Rick Smith, and I've been a friend of Jerry and David's for quite a long time now. Very special people in my life. That song, Comfort Me, you know, Jerry was pretty good at comforting people. You know, he had this way about him, you know, he had a way of making you feel more than. And when you talked with him, you knew you were being heard. What a beautiful song that was. As I'm hearing it and listening to it, I'm searching for the times I remember singing and dancing with Jerry. And it reminded me of the times up in Maine, up at Ferry Beach. We would go up there every year for our big gala group. Which he was a member since almost its conception, about 45 years ago. It's a summer conference for gay men, and it's just a place where you can go and be your authentic self. You can sing and dance with the guys and build lifelong friendships and just get away from the daily grind, you know. But that's not how I met Jerry. I met Jerry about 13 years ago at a gay support group. It was shortly after they lost their partner, Mark. I found Jerry to be a little shy. He was pretty quiet. But David came to the meeting a few times. But it wasn't until about 2 or 3 years later, I think David saw me at the Hannah Theater. We were at the North Coast Men's Chorus, and I was standing outside smoking a cigarette, which I don't do that anymore. But I was a different person back then. I was broken, suffering from drug addiction and alcoholism. And Dave and Jerry just kind of swooped in and helped him out. They kind of saved me from myself. For that, I will forever be grateful. David was kind of like a mentor. He took on the mentor role, whereas Jerry, he became more of a brother. He was kind and considerate, you know, and just, he always just got things done. No matter what you needed, he would find a way to make it happen, you know. Some of my finest memories are when we would travel up to Ferry Beach. It's like a 15-hour road trip, you know. We'd usually stop overnight in some hotel, you know, up in New York or somewhere up there. And they say, you know, you never really know someone until you travel with them. And you know what? I know Dave and Jerry pretty well. They both snore. They both go to the bathroom like 3 times a night. They're very particular in what they drink and what they eat. Although I could probably order for them at any restaurant you go to. I'd say 2 Arnold Palmers. David's going to have half a sandwich and a cup of soup, and Jerry would always go for whatever chicken was on the menu, for a sandwich, or he loved chicken marsala. We'd always follow it with usually sneaking away to Maylee's or Mitchell's to go to get some ice cream. I'm gonna miss those days. Jerry's influenced a lot of people, affect a lot of people's lives. I can just tell by me looking around here, looking at all these wonderful faces. He was a school teacher, a great one from what I hear from some of his students. But he was retired when I met him, and he was working over at Mitchell Sales, and he was selling drill bits and blades. He would pack them up and send them out to construction companies and stuff. But he finally did retire about 4 or 5 years ago. And although he was retired, he kept really busy. He was very active in this church, as you can hear, for some other testimonies earlier. He was busy. He was one of the elders for our Gala Brothers. He was also active in the Greater Ohio Gala chapter. Did a lot of stuff there, and if that wasn't enough, he did Tai Chi, he did yoga, he went to the LGBT Center a couple days a week, and also went to Silver Sneakers every once in a while over there up at the gym. What a man. He will be missed. I miss him. I miss him already. I spoke earlier about singing and dancing. The dancing wasn't that frequent, but the singing was. Whenever we went up to Ferry Beach, we would sing to say hello to our brothers, and we would sing to say goodbye to our brothers. And we would sing a song called Flying Free. And I'm going to have them play that for us. And with it, I say goodbye to Jerry. And I'm going to miss him, and I love him. Thanks.
By the sea.
Thank you so much for those heartfelt remembrances. Thank you. And now it is time to open the floor to those who might have something briefer to share. Please share from that pulpit.
My name is Tom, and I'm really happy to be here today. I am free. In many circles with Jerry. Today, thank you. And I'm so grateful for being able to be here on this occasion. And rather than thinking it's a sad event, it's a happy event to remember the things that Jerry brought to us. And in particular, what he brought to me as a friend. I've known him for many, many, many years, as well as David and Mark. But what I can tell you about Jerry, what I'm taking away and keeping in my memory, is that he was not only a kind person, he was an able person that was loving and caring. And the best thing about him, I knew him as a man who had learned to listen, because his forte was being able to hear what you had to say or get off your chest or be able to unload with a friend that would keep it to himself, but always reach out a hand. And the other thing that was amazing about him, he had a quirky sense of humor. And he would always love to make the butt of a joke at me. And I loved him for it. And as quiet and as gentle as he was, I hope he's flying free today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. That was lovely. Please. That's fine. That's fine. Right.
Hi, my name is Evelyn Parries. I'm a retired teacher. I taught at Glenville for 5 years with Jerry. He was a good friend of mine. We had lunch together last summer. That's the last time I saw him. But we emailed constantly. And and he always wrote back. And I had just sent him an email, I think on the 5th of May, and he didn't respond. And then I was on Facebook, and I saw a couple of people had written that their favorite English teacher from Glenville had passed away. And I'm like, oh my God. And then I saw that they wrote that it was Jerry. And I was just like in shock. Jerry was a very kind person, very understanding. He listened and he cared. He probably made me a more caring person, a more open and accepting individual. Sometimes I'm kind of rigid, and he's like, Evelyn. I'm like, but he was cool, and his students loved him. And I keep hearing people say that if they needed something done, they said, ask Jerry. And that's the truth. He was open, and he got things done. I enjoyed working with him, and I will truly, truly, truly miss him. That's all.
Sir, why don't you use that? That's a better one.
I hate public speaking. And I don't know how brief I can be, so just cut me off when you're sick of me. A number of years ago, I attempted suicide. And shortly after that, I survived, obviously. And by the way, I think I have the same taste in clothes that Jerry had, if you look at the picture. Shortly after that, I sought a therapist, and he sent me to a group at the LGBT Center. And I walked in, and Mark was the leader of the group, and Jerry and David were there. And I sat through the meeting, and at the end of the meeting, one of the guys in the group went over to David and said, "Hey, he looks scared to death, and he's going through the same thing I'm going through. Why don't you go talk to him?" And David said, "No, why don't you?" And he came over and he talked to me, and not long after that, he became my husband. So I have David to thank for 18 happy years of wedded, well, we weren't wedded until 2017,
Wow.
but 18 years of happiness with him. And David and Mark and Jerry were always like the big brothers that rejected me when I left my wife and became who I truly am. So I will be forever grateful. Grateful to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm Elaine Strawn, and I just want to say something about Jerry as a force in the Unitarian Universalist movement. Every congregation I served in this district, Jerry was there whenever there was an event. How does Jerry even know this is happening? But Jerry was there with his camera and spreading Unitarian Universalism. But my favorite memory of Jerry Knasel was when he and I shared, we're on the same team for Eagles Leadership School, which was in formerly this district and St. Lawrence district next to us, and we met in Canada. And that particular year, Jerry didn't ride with us because his car was filled with the materials for this retreat, this week-long intensive to train Unitarian Universalist lay leadership. And Jerry didn't arrive, and he didn't arrive, and he didn't arrive in St. Catharines, Ontario. And finally, we got a phone call from him, and Jerry said, "I'm still at the border." And we said, "What happened?" And he said, "Well, they asked me if I was carrying anything in my trunk." And Jerry was always very honest. And yes, well, what do you have? Well, I have literature. What kind of literature? Religious literature from the United States into Canada. You can imagine the board was, at the border they were kind of upset. So several more hours passed, and finally, after Jerry had to unpack his entire trunk and repack his entire trunk, he arrived with the rest of us to prepare for the week ahead. But Jerry was, a crusader is a controversial word, I know that. But Jerry was a willing crusader. He was willing to stick his neck out there, not only as a gay man, but as a Unitarian Universalist. He had the love of our tradition in his heart, and he was willing to show up and to talk about it. What a gift. What a gift to ministers. What a gift to the entire denomination. God, he will be missed.
I'm Mary Jo Maish. I met Jerry Knasel in 1982. And it was the beginning of something that I don't think I had any idea what it would turn into. At that point, any of us who identified as gay, lesbian, trans, whatever, we were in closets that were very, very thick, soundproof. We did not come out at work. We were solidly invisible, if we could. And so the first time I met him was at a meeting for people who had come out at GA, General Assembly, in 1982, and saw people they knew but didn't know were identified as LGBT. I wasn't there, but I was at one of the follow-up meetings in Shaker Heights, held by candlelight, so no one could be seen or photographed. And there we started Interweave. How many of you went to Interweave meetings? Yeah, there's people here who go back many, many years when we weren't really out even in our congregations. And Jerry was my beloved brother, Yu, in all of that. And I have to say, all of that work bore fruit that we are living in our culture today. But the work isn't over. We have work to do yet. And we have a beloved beyond the veil who will keep cheering us on because he was persevering as much as anybody I ever knew. Thank you.
From the Bible, Ecclesiastes chapter 3, we hear that there is a time for everything and a season for every activity under the sun. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to weep, a time to laugh, a time to mourn, and a time to dance. There is a time for everything. And this is the fullness of time that we find ourselves in right now, when we know the pain of tenderness, when we feel the joy and the sorrow mixed up all together. Thank you for all of the remembrances that you have shared about Jerry. I am so grateful to be coming to know him even better through your stories and your laughter and all the tears, There is so much to celebrate. And I would add just a few more things. One is simply the observation that everyone is saying the same basic things. Have you noticed that? Well, that says we are seeing the man as he is in himself. We are drilling down to the truth of Jerry Knasel. A good man, a great man. You could even be the butt of his joke, apparently, and he'd still like you. A good man. And I would be so bold to argue that perhaps you couldn't really know Jerry without knowing his love for Unitarian Universalism and for this church, for West Shore. You might not really know him if you didn't know that about him. He understood church. He understood how it leads to things that are way bigger than any one of us as individuals can accomplish. And that is absolutely clear from his record of volunteerism here at West Shore. My understanding is that he was a member of the board. He was once president of the board. He taught coming of age. He served on the Denominational Connections Committee for over 30 years. He represented West Shore as a delegate to General Assembly, maybe for just as long. He co-chaired the Queer and Allies Task Force since 1983. Since our annual Pride Parade in Atlanta started, Jerry made sure that West Shore was going to show up, and West Shore was going to pray with their feet. Got that? He made sure we're going to pray with our feet. Jerry was on the nominating committee. He was on the hospitality team. He was a connection circle facilitator. He was instrumental in designing a new West Shore t-shirt with David and Sarah Beach. I learned the other day that practically the only thing that he has not done at West Shore was to be a worship associate. And if I had known that, I would have put a target on that guy. I would have gone for him. He loved this congregation. I'm not surprised. Sill's comments from earlier. Who will run the pledge drive? When is the coffee ready? Oh, Jerry will do it. Not surprised that these walls whisper. They whisper that about this great man. He loved this congregation. It was his vehicle for accomplishing so many good things. He definitely was in good company with his beloved Mark and his beloved Dave, his clump. Am I getting that right? The clump. That's what they call themselves, the clump. Mark served in so many ways himself. Dave has served in so many ways. You might not know that there is a bench at Lutheran Cemetery here in Cleveland which honors all three. And it says this: they nurtured and cared for each other in life, and in death they were not divided. The good that they did lives on after them, into the ages yet to come. Indeed, they were among the good of the earth. Now, the past tense does not yet apply to this man right here. It does not yet apply to this man right here. Dave has yet more to give and to receive. Can we all say amen to that? Amen. Did you hear that? Because I know this is a tough moment. The loss feels so deep. Say amen again to him. Amen. Present tense for you, sir. But the past tense, is correct when speaking of Mark and of Jerry, regrettably so. I didn't know Mark, but I've heard so much about that remarkable man. Jerry, I was getting to know. I loved his big and beautiful laughter. I loved his mischievous smile, which was a joyful thing to behold. His sparkly eyes. J-Dog. I don't know if I heard that monkey laughter, but I'm not surprised, right? The monkey laughter. His quirky, funny sense of humor. It was lovely. And Jerry was about friendship. Friendship. We've said a number of words that are cognate to that resonate with that. Friendship. Friendship that helped to build a spirit of service. It brings to mind a story from West Shore member Larry Wise. Larry says, I tend to be quiet. I like to think of myself as an ally to the LGBTQ plus community. But I did not really go out and take a stand. I supported family and friends, but as national and local events have shown, it's not enough. Jerry made a huge impact on me. In part, it's just about his friendship. But he also invited me to get involved with West Shore's Queer and Allies group. And during the Cleveland Pride Parade a number of years back, Larry's crying. A couple years back, Larry says, I got to be an angel. Do you know about West Shore's angels? Those are the people who put themselves between the haters and the ones God loves. You got that? So Larry says, I got to be an angel. For some, he says, that might seem like some kind of gimmick, but for me, it was a way to put myself directly in front of the haters as a shield to others. This opportunity gave a quiet person like me the chance to make a difference and to stand up for what I believe. And that's the story. And this, clearly, from what we have heard today, is just one example of how Jerry made a huge difference in people's lives by his friendship, by his kind invitations to get involved, and his encouraging words. Oh man, and now we're here. We're here. This West Shore congregation, whose health and strength has been nurtured so faithfully over the decades by Jerry's generosity, and now we must grapple with a great loss. And I know quite a few of you folks here aren't West Shore folks, but this is our heart. We love this man, and we are mourning. We feel broken. Reverend Jeremiah Collande, for whom Jerry was a dear friend and mentor, puts it well. Jerry has joined the ancestors. So now together, what we are doing here right now, we are creating a space where what is so difficult emotionally to do alone can be done together. Together, we are doing what the poet Carl Sandburg says. Gather the stars, gather the songs and keep them. Gather the faces of the beloveds, gather for keeping years and years. And then loosen hands, let go and say goodbye. Let the stars, let the songs go, let the faces and the years go. Loosen hands and say goodbye. I am so grateful for relationship in congregational community where we are made resilient for the spiritually paradoxical task of gathering and of loosening. Gathering and loosening. Jerry understood this perhaps best of all. Through membership, a person is literally declaring for themselves how the community represents their deepest values and highest aspirations, which they want to gather to themselves and to all whom they love. They are literally declaring through membership how this community supports them in life, and they want it to be the place where they are remembered in death. They are literally declaring that here are their people. The people they promise to support in their living, and after death, to be the ancestor for them. The ultimate expression of this is the memorial service, the gathering of songs and stars and faces, and then the loosening of hands, letting go and saying goodbye. The ceremony unfolds, and we Unitarian Universalists call it a celebration of life, not just because death is what gives life meaning and urgency, but also because we must celebrate or acknowledge or witness, or whatever word you want to give it. We want to witness to the mystery of how any life ultimately defeats nothingness, which it most certainly does. And as Unitarian Universalists, we have freedom to tell different stories about what this might mean. Some Unitarian Universalists will speak of reincarnation. Others will speak of there being no afterlife at all. Still others will say a different thing yet. But the one story we can all share in the telling of is how the actions of people who have long since died still reverberate in the same way that light from a star that has long since collapsed continues to stream through time and space and continues to shine and warm, just like that. To paraphrase the Reverend Peter Rabel, foundations have been laid, which we did not build. Fires have been lit, which we did not light. Trees have been planted, which we did not plant. Wells have been dug, which we did not dig. Any person who has lost a loved one knows that this is true, and that death does not end a relationship so much as inaugurate a new beginning for it, a new way of growing through it, a new way of appreciating it. Death is not an end, but a doorway. To each of you here, side by side with the laughter and tears which arise as you remember Jerry and think on his life and think on his death, side by side with this is the equal task of you yourself going back out into that world and leaning into the one wild, precious life that you've been given and which, by the grace of God, is still present tense. It's still yours. May you live it as well as Jerry has. May you live and live and live until that final moment when death comes for you. As for Jerry, I'll be thinking about that story involving Larry. How Larry got to be an angel because Jerry helped him find the way. So many people today are angels of some kind or other because of Jerry. And so I say, rest in peace and rest in power, Jerry Knasel. You are flying free, flying free. We honor you as one of the ancestors. Let us now enter into a time of silent meditation, prefaced by these profound words from Dorothy Monroe. Death is not too high a price to pay for having lived. Mountains never die, nor do the seas or rocks or endless sky. Through countless centuries of time, they stay eternal, deathless, yet they never live. If choice were there, I would not hesitate to choose mortality. Whatever fate demanded in return for life, I would give. For never to have seen the fertile plains, nor heard the winds, nor felt the warm sun on sands beneath a salty sea, not having touched the hands of the ones I love. Without these, all the gains of timelessness would not be worth one day of living and loving, come what may. Now let us enter into the silence. These are the meditations of our heart this day. Amen.
This will be the last time in this form that I will be able to share with people that Jerry cared about and loved, and who embraced him and whom he embraced. Jerry was a beautiful man, body, soul, and spirit. I was privileged to live with Jerry the vast majority of my journey in life for 56 years. Jerry was a good person. He was a blessed person. He certainly blessed me. And indeed, he made the world a better place to be. Jerry was indeed among the good of the earth, as is emblazoned on the memorial bench. Well, I guess that Reverend Anthony indicated resides not only at the cemetery on Pearl Road, Lutheran Cemetery, but also at Ferry Beach. I was so blessed to have Mark and Jerry to love in my life and to be loved in return. I will miss them dearly. And I trust that life can still be good and whole and doable in a spirit of joy once again. And thank you all for being here with me this afternoon. This ballad that I penned, I hoped I would never have to sing. I hope that maybe both Jerry and Mark, I might predecease them, since I was a senior member of our family. But no, they got there first. And so this ballad of healing reflects my new reality that happened in the last month. And the last two verses, I'm inviting you to join in singing with me. It's an antiphonal piece, my spirit, and then what will happen after.
I'm so weary, I'm so broken, who will heal me now? In my strife and in my sorrow, who will wipe my brow? Who will take my hands and hold them? Who my troubled heart repair? Who will come be my companion now that you are not there? Oh, who will it be? Oh, who will it be? Who will hold me? Who will love me now that you are gone? Who will take my broken spirit? Who will make it whole? In the midst of all my sorrow, in this darkest dark of night, who will come lift up my spirit and bring me back to light? Oh, who will it be? Oh, who will it be? We will hold you, we will love you, we your sorrow share, and your spirit, when it's
as human beings, equal before the gaze of eternity, each of us mortal, each of us with a memorial service in our own future. As human beings, we have gathered this day, as people have gathered for long millennia, to speak together of one who is loved and who has been lost, to feel our hearts fully, and to find in this time together some healing in the gratitude we feel for the time that we had with Jerry, and for the certain knowledge that his impact on the world shall triumph over death. Gratitude is good medicine in times like this. And so may our gratitude only grow over time in the upcoming days and weeks and months as we are grieving Jerry's death. Let us strengthen each other. Let us encourage each other. Let it be a time of continuing to remember all of the stories, all of the feelings about this great man. While he has died, he still lives on. And all of you here, all his family and friends, the many lives his has touched, the love we have for him, it'll never end. The chalice is now extinguished, but its light, which represents Jerry's wonderful life, is now ours. It's ours to take forth from this place, to share it with the folks that we know, to share it with the folks that we love, to share it with folks we have yet to meet. So may it be. Let us conclude this celebration of life. Please rise in body or in spirit. Humbly we stand in the face of death. Confidently we stand with life, because we share one fate and a great compassion. Our strength is the strength of humanity throughout all time. Let us now go in acceptance and in thanksgiving, grateful for the life of Jerry Knasel, comforted by one another's presence, and sustained by the peace that passes all understanding, the peace of the sacred. So may it be. Go in peace.